Wife slapped
How
her
dare
poor
you!
husband in front of the waiter and said, "He's not paying. He can't afford it."
Sir, your private table
The waiter
upstairs is
looked at
ready.
him and said,
What? Private
"Sir,
table?
your table upstairs is ready." Marcus Chen was 45 years old when his wife
told you,
slapped him
there's
across
nothing
the
to worry
face
about.
in the middle of Maria,
My God.
one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. It was a Friday evening in late October, and Marcus had made reservations 3 weeks in advance to celebrate his wife Catherine's 42nd birthday at the restaurant she'd been talking about for months. The reservation had cost him a $500 deposit for their table, non-refundable, and the prix-fixe menu ran $385 per person before wine. Marcus worked as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company in Brooklyn, making $142,000 a year. Catherine worked as a marketing director at a luxury cosmetics brand, pulling in $178,000 annually plus bonuses that sometimes reached $50,000. They lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Park Slope that cost $4,800 per month in rent. They'd been married for 11 years, no children by mutual agreement. Both had been focused on their careers. The problems had started about 2 years ago. Catherine's career had taken off. She'd been promoted twice in 18 months, her salary jumping from $110,000 to $178,000. She'd started traveling for work. Milan, Paris, London, Tokyo, flying business class, staying in 5-star hotels, attending fashion shows and industry galas. Her wardrobe transformed. She started wearing Chanel suits that cost $8,000, carrying Hermes bags worth $15,000, wearing Louboutin heels at $1,200 a pair. Marcus's salary had stayed relatively flat. He'd gotten cost of living increases, a small bonus here and there, but he was still fundamentally making the same money he'd made 5 years ago. And Catherine had started to notice the gap, started to make comments about it. "Marcus, you really should negotiate harder for raises. Look at how much my income has grown. Maybe you should look for a position at a bigger company. Your talents are wasted at that small firm. I wish you were more ambitious. I'm constantly pushing myself forward and you seem content to stay in the same place." The comments became more frequent, more cutting. Catherine started going out with her work colleagues after hours, coming home at midnight smelling of expensive wine and cigarettes she didn't smoke. She stopped asking Marcus to join her at work events. "It's industry people. You wouldn't understand the conversations." She started paying for dinners out with her credit card, not the joint account they'd always used. "I'll expense it through work." Marcus noticed, but said nothing. He wasn't confrontational by nature. He'd grown up in a working-class Chinese-American family in Queens, taught to keep his head down, work hard, not make waves. His parents had run a small restaurant for 30 years, working 80-hour weeks to put Marcus and his sister through college. Marcus had learned early that stability mattered more than flash. That consistent effort beat dramatic gestures. What Catherine didn't know, what Marcus had never told her, was that his small firm in Brooklyn wasn't just an employer. Marcus was one of 3 founding partners of a software development company called Chen & Associates. The company specialized in cybersecurity solutions for financial institutions. They had 47 employees and annual revenue of $28 million. Marcus's ownership stake was 40%, carefully structured through an LLC that kept his name out of public filings. Marcus drew a modest salary of $142,000 from the company to avoid attention and maintain his low profile. But his actual annual income from profit distributions was closer to $890,000. He had investment accounts worth $4.2 million. He owned 3 rental properties in Brooklyn, worth a combined $3.8 million. His total net worth was approximately $8.6 million. He'd never told Catherine because he'd learned early in their relationship that she valued money more than she admitted. When they'd first started dating, she'd been excited when she thought Marcus worked at a prestigious tech company. When she learned he was at a small startup, her enthusiasm had cooled. She'd almost broken up with him. Only when she got her own high-paying job did she agree to marry him, saying she didn't need to marry rich, since she could make her own money. Marcos had kept his wealth secret as a test, to see if Catherine would value him for himself, not for what he could provide. For 11 years she hadn't. For 11 years she'd treated him as an equal when their salaries were similar, then as an inferior when hers surpassed his visible income. Tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight was Catherine's birthday, and Marcus had planned something special. He'd made a reservation at Maria under his real name, not the name he used at work, but his legal name that appeared on the ownership documents of Chen and Associates. He'd called ahead, spoken to the restaurant manager, explained who he was and what he wanted to arrange. The manager had been very accommodating. They'd arrived at Maria at 7:30 p.m. The restaurant was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, marble floors, tables set with Versace china and Baccarat crystal. Catherine had dressed in a new Dior dress that probably cost $6,000. Her Hermes Birkin bag casually set on the floor beside her chair like it was nothing, though Marcus knew it had cost $18,000. The hostess greeted them. "Reservation name?" "Chen," Marcus said. "Party of 2. The hostess checked her tablet, frowned slightly. "I see a Chen reservation, but—" She looked at Marcus, then at Catherine, seeming confused. "Is there a problem?" Catherine asked, her tone sharp. She'd developed that tone over the past 2 years, the tone that said she was important and you'd better not waste her time. "No, ma'am. I just need to verify something. One moment, please." The hostess walked away to speak with someone in a suit, probably the manager Marcus had spoken with on the phone. They waited. Catherine sighed dramatically. "This is why I prefer making reservations through my corporate account. They recognize you. They give you better service." Marcus said nothing. The hostess returned with the suited man. "Mr. Chen," the manager said, looking at Marcus. "Yes," Marcus said quietly. "There seems to be a small issue with your reservation. Let me show you to your table and we'll sort it out." The manager gestured toward the main dining room. Catherine followed, already pulling out her phone to take photos for Instagram. They were seated at a table in the middle of the dining room. Nice enough, but not spectacular. Not the table Marcus had specifically requested when he'd made the reservation. A waiter appeared. Young guy, maybe 25, Italian accent. Impeccable service training. "Good evening. My name is Antonio and I'll be your server tonight. May I start you with something to drink?" "I'll have the Bollinger Champagne," Catherine said without looking at the menu. "The vintage, not the standard." Antonio nodded. The Bollinger La Grande Année cost $380 a bottle. "And for you, sir?" "Just water for now, thank you," Marcus said. Catherine looked at him. "Marcus, it's my birthday. Order a drink. I'm fine with water." "You're so boring," Catherine muttered, loud enough for Antonio to hear. The waiter shifted uncomfortably. Dinner proceeded. Catherine ordered the most expensive items on the menu. Faroe Island salmon crudo for $48 as her appetizer, Maine lobster for $68, the fusilli with red wine braised octopus as her pasta course for $56. Marcos ordered more modestly, the Tonarelli cacio e pepe for $38, a simple pasta dish that was actually one of Maria's signatures but didn't carry the same price tag as Catherine's selections. Catherine drank, started with the Bollinger Champagne, draining her glass quickly and signaling Antonio for a refill. Then she switched to wine, ordering a glass of Barolo from a specific vineyard she'd learned about at some work event. The wine cost $45 per glass, then another glass. By the time their entrees arrived, she was tipsy and getting mean in the way she always did when she drank expensive wine on an empty stomach. Marcus watched her across the table, noticed how she held her wine glass, fingers delicately positioned, pinky slightly extended, the way she'd learned from those etiquette courses her company had sent her to when she got promoted. Everything about Catherine now was performed, curated, designed to project success and sophistication. "You know, Marcus, I was talking to Alessandro from work today," Catherine said, her voice getting loud in that way drunk people don't realize. "He's our VP of International Marketing. He makes probably $400,000 a year, maybe more with bonuses. And he was telling me about his anniversary trip to the Maldives. They stayed at that resort, you know the one, Soneva Fushi, where the rooms are $2,000 a night. Minimum, and that's before activities and food." She took another sip of wine. The tables around them were trying not to listen, but Marcus could see people's attention shifting their way. "When was the last time we went on a nice vacation?" Catherine continued. "A real vacation, not some budget trip." "We went to Vermont last summer," Marcus said quietly, hoping to redirect the conversation somewhere less public. "Vermont?" Catherine laughed, loud enough that the couple at the next table glanced over. "We stayed in a bed and breakfast that cost $200 a night and you complained it was expensive. You actually said, maybe we should have just camped to save money. Alessandro's talking about the Maldives where the rooms have glass floors looking into the ocean and private pools, and I'm defending our Vermont B&B trip where the bathroom was down the hall." Marcus cut his pasta, trying to focus on the food rather than the eyes he could feel watching them from surrounding tables. The cacio e pepe was perfect, simple, elegant, the kind of dish that proved you didn't need luxury ingredients to create something beautiful. He appreciated that about Italian cooking. Substance over flash. "You know what your problem is," Catherine continued, and Marcus felt his stomach tighten because he knew what was coming. This was the conversation they'd had in various forms for 2 years now, but Catherine had always been sober before, always been behind closed doors. "You have no ambition. You're content to stay at your little company in Brooklyn, making your little salary, living your little life." She waved her hand around, nearly knocking over her wine glass. Antonio appeared from nowhere and stabilized it, his face professionally neutral. "I've grown," Catherine said. "I've pushed myself. I started at $110,000 and now I'm making $178,000 plus bonuses. I network, I travel, I represent our brand at international events, and you've just stayed the same salary, the same job, the same boring routine. You wake up, you go to Brooklyn, you come home, you eat dinner, you watch TV. That's it. That's your whole life." The tables around them were no longer pretending not to listen. A woman in her 60s wearing what looked like a $15,000 Chanel suit was staring openly. A younger couple had stopped eating entirely, forks frozen halfway to their mouths. "Catherine," Marcus said softly, trying to inject some authority into his voice without raising the volume. "Let's not do this here." "Do what?" Her voice pitched even louder. "Have an honest conversation? I'm tired of pretending, Marcus. I'm tired of being the breadwinner while you coast along. Do you know how embarrassing it is when I'm at work events and people ask what my husband does and I have to say you're a software engineer at some no-name company in Brooklyn? Alessandro's wife is a cardiologist. Thomas's wife runs her own boutique PR firm with Fortune 500 clients. And I have to explain that you work in IT. She said IT like it was something distasteful, like Marcus fixed computers at Best Buy instead of designing cybersecurity protocols for major banks. I'm tired of having to downgrade my life to match your income level, Catherine continued. She was on a roll now, her voice echoing in the high-ceilinged space. Other diners had stopped even pretending to have their own conversations. The entire section was listening to Catherine enumerate Marcus's failures. I want to go to the Maldives. I want to stay in $2,000 a night rooms. I want to fly first class instead of premium economy. But I can't do those things because I have to think about your budget, your comfort level, your fear of spending money." Marcus set down his fork. His pasta was getting cold, but he'd lost his appetite anyway. He looked at Catherine across the table. Her Dior dress, her Hermes bag, her Louboutin heels, all purchased with her money, all carefully selected to project an image of success. And he realized that somewhere in the past 2 years, his wife had become someone he didn't recognize. Someone who measured worth exclusively in dollars and status symbols. Someone who couldn't be happy because she was too busy performing happiness for an invisible audience. Antonio appeared with the check, set it on the table between them quietly, clearly uncomfortable with the scene unfolding in his section. The bill sat there, black leather folder embossed with Mireya's logo, containing $847.50 worth of food and wine. Catherine didn't even look at it. She gestured vaguely toward Marcus. "He's paying," she announced to Antonio, her voice carrying across the restaurant. "Although I don't know how he's going to afford it on his salary. His credit card might get declined. Might be embarrassing for everyone." A few people gasped. The older woman in Chanel actually put her hand over her mouth. This was Manhattan, where people understood money, where they'd seen fortunes made and lost. But they also understood decorum. What Catherine was doing violated every rule of polite society. Marcus reached for the check. His hand was steady despite the humiliation burning in his chest. He'd handled worse. He'd dealt with demanding clients, hostile negotiations, company near bankruptcy in the early days. He could handle his wife insulting him in public. But Catherine's hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. Her grip was tight, fingers digging into his skin hard enough to hurt. "Actually, you know what?" Catherine's face was flushed, her eyes bright with wine and anger and something that looked almost like hatred. "I'll pay. I make more money anyway. I always end up paying for everything important." That's when she slapped him. Her palm connected with Marcus's left cheek with a sharp crack that echoed through the restaurant like a gunshot. The sound was shocking in the elegant space, violent and wrong, completely out of place among the white tablecloths and baccarat crystal. Every conversation in Mireya stopped. Every single person in the restaurant turned to stare. Marcus felt the sting spread across his face, felt heat rising in his cheek where Catherine's hand had landed. His ears rang slightly from the impact. "You're pathetic," Catherine hissed, her face inches from his now, her breath smelling of Barolo. "Sitting there in your men's warehouse suit that probably cost $300, looking like some middle management nobody. While I'm wearing Dior. I'm wearing a dress that costs more than your entire wardrobe. And you can't even afford to take me to a nice restaurant without worrying about the bill." Marcus touched his cheek. It stung, sharp pain radiating from where she'd hit him. He could feel the eyes of 60, 70 people on him. Could hear the silence, heavy and uncomfortable. Could sense the shock from other diners, the horror that someone would do this, that someone would hit their spouse in public, in one of New York's finest restaurants. He looked at Catherine, really looked at her. Saw the woman he'd married 11 years ago, or what was left of her. Saw how much she'd changed, how much she'd let her income and status and designer clothes transform her into someone cruel. Someone who would humiliate her husband publicly because she thought he was beneath her. Antonio, the waiter, stood frozen beside their table, the check still in his hand, clearly not knowing what to do. Should he call security? Call the police? This was assault, technically, but the victim was the man, the aggressor was the well-dressed woman, and Antonio probably didn't have protocols for this situation. Other diners were whispering now. Marcus caught fragments of conversation from nearby tables. "Did she just hit him? In Maria, can you believe it? Should someone call that poor man?" She's drunk! Look at her! Then a voice cut through the whispers, calm, professional, touched with an Italian accent. Mr. Chen. Marcus turned. It was the restaurant manager, the one who'd greeted them earlier. He was looking at Marcus with something like apology in his eyes. Yes, Marcus said quietly. Sir, I apologize for the confusion earlier. Your table upstairs is ready. If you'd like to move to the private dining room, we have everything prepared as you requested. The restaurant went completely silent. Catherine's face went from flushed anger to pale confusion. What? What table upstairs? The manager ignored her, keeping his attention on Marcus. I'm very sorry for the mix-up, Mr. Chen. The reservation should have been clear. Your usual table in the private room is available now if you'd still like to move. My usual table, Marcus said. Yes, sir. The one you reserve monthly for your business dinners. Marcus felt every eye in the restaurant on him. Catherine was staring at him like she'd never seen him before. I think, Marcus said slowly, I'd prefer to stay here. But thank you. The manager nodded, handed Marcus a business card. Of course, sir. Please call me directly if you need anything. And again, my apologies for the earlier confusion. He left. Marcus picked up the check. The total was $847.50 with wine and tax. He pulled out a credit card, a black American Express Centurion card that required you to charge at least $350,000 annually to maintain. The card Catherine had never seen, because Marcus kept it in his office, not his wallet. Antonio took the card with hands that shook slightly. Catherine was staring at Marcus. What the hell is going on? I'm paying for dinner, Marcus said, like I planned to all along. That card, that's not your regular card. What is that? It's a credit card. Marcos, that's a Centurion card. Those are invitation only. You have to spend hundreds of thousands a year to even qualify. How do you have that card? Antonio returned with the receipt. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Would you like me to call for your car? No, thank you, Marcus said. He added a $200 tip, about 24%, and signed. Catherine was still staring. The other diners were trying to pretend they weren't listening, while clearly listening to every word. Marcus, what's going on? The manager said your usual table, your business dinners. What business dinners? Marcus stood up. Let's go home, Catherine. We'll talk there. No, Catherine's voice was sharp. Tell me now what's going on. Marcus looked at his wife of 11 years, at the woman who'd just slapped him in a crowded restaurant because she thought he was poor, who'd called him pathetic in front of dozens of strangers, who'd spent 2 years making him feel small because she thought she'd outgrown him. I own the company I work for, Marcus said quietly. Chen & Associates isn't just where I work. It's my company. I'm a founding partner with a 40% stake. We do $28 million in annual revenue. That's impossible, she whispered. I have investment accounts worth over $4 million. I own 3 rental properties in Brooklyn, worth $3.8 million combined. I reserve this private dining room once a month for business dinners with clients where we discuss cybersecurity contracts worth millions of dollars. I've been doing this for 8 years. 8 years? We've been married 11 years. You've been lying to me for... I haven't lied, Marcus said. I've just never corrected your assumptions. You assumed I was a regular employee making a regular salary. I never said otherwise. I kept my wealth private to see if you'd value me for who I am, not what I have. That's manipulative, is it? Marcus asked. More manipulative than spending 2 years telling me I'm not ambitious enough. More manipulative than making fun of my salary. More manipulative than calling me pathetic in a crowded restaurant. Catherine stood up. She was shaking. I need to leave. I need to think. Okay, Marcus said. She grabbed her Hermes bag. looked at him one more time. "We're going to talk about this at home." "I don't think we are," Marcus said. "I think you're going to find that when you get home, I've already moved my things to one of my rental properties. The apartment is in both our names, but I've been paying 100% of the $4,800 monthly rent from a separate account for the past 3 years. You can stay there or leave. I don't care." "Marcus, you slapped me in public," Marcus said. His voice was still quiet, but there was steel in it now. "You humiliated me in front of all these people because you thought I was beneath you, because you thought I couldn't afford to pay for your birthday dinner. That's not something I can forgive." Catherine looked around the restaurant. Every single diner was watching. She'd created this scene. She'd made this moment public. And now, she was the one being humiliated. She left, nearly ran out of the restaurant, her Louboutin heels clicking on the marble floor. Marcus sat back down, finished his water. Antonio appeared again, looking uncertain. "Sir, is there anything else I can get you?" "No, thank you," Marcus said. "But could you thank the manager for me, for handling the situation earlier?" "Of course, sir." Antonio hesitated. "If I may say, sir, you handled that with remarkable grace." Marcus gave a small smile. "My parents ran a restaurant in Queens for 30 years. I know how uncomfortable it is when customers make scenes. I'm sorry you had to witness that. Thank you, sir, and happy birthday to your wife." Marcus left Maria 20 minutes later, took an Uber to one of his rental properties in Park Slope, a 3-bedroom brownstone apartment he'd bought 6 years ago for $1.2 million, now worth $1.8 million. The tenants had moved out 2 months ago, and Marcus hadn't listed it for rent yet. He'd known, somewhere in the back of his mind, that he might need a place to stay soon. His phone buzzed constantly with texts from Catherine. Apologies, demands for explanations, threats about divorce lawyers. Marcus ignored them all. The next morning, Saturday, Marcus met with his attorney, Benjamin Park, a Korean-American lawyer who'd grown up 3 blocks from Marcus in Queens and now specialized in high-net-worth divorces. "You want to file for divorce?" Benjamin asked. "I think so," Marcus said. "She slapped me in a public restaurant, in front of maybe 60 people." "That's assault," Benjamin said. "You could press charges." "I won't," Marcus said. "I just want the marriage over." Benjamin reviewed Marcus's assets, the company stake, the rental properties, the investment accounts, the fact that Catherine had no idea about most of it. "New York is an equitable distribution state," Benjamin said, "not community property. The judge divides assets based on what's fair, not automatically 50-50. The fact that you kept these assets separate, that they were acquired through your business ownership that predates the marriage for the company at least." "The company was founded 8 years ago," Marcus said, 3 years after we married. "But with your own capital and labor," Benjamin said. "Not marital funds, that matters. And these rental properties, when did you buy them?" "First one 6 years ago, second one 4 years ago, third one 2 years ago. All purchased with income from my company, not joint marital funds." "That helps," Benjamin said. "But New York courts might still award Catherine some portion since they were acquired during the marriage. We'll need to fight for most of it." The divorce proceedings took 8 months. Catherine hired an aggressive attorney named Patricia Morrison, who worked at one of Manhattan's white shoe law firms and charged $650 per hour. Patricia had a reputation for maximizing settlements for wives in high-net-worth divorces. She'd gotten a $47 million settlement for a client whose husband was a hedge fund manager. She'd secured a $12 million payout for a woman married to a tech CEO. Patricia was expensive, ruthless, and very good at her job. The first mediation session took place in a conference room at Patricia's firm in Midtown. The room was designed to intimidate. floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, a mahogany table that probably cost $30,000, leather chairs worth $2,000 each. Patricia sat at the head of the table, in an Armani suit that cost at least $5,000, looking like she owned the room, which, technically, she did. Catherine sat beside her, wearing a more subdued version of her usual wardrobe. A simple black dress that still probably cost $2,000, more muted jewelry. She'd been coached by her attorney to look like a wronged wife, not a luxury-obsessed executive. Marcus sat across from them with Benjamin Park. Benjamin's suit was nice but not showy. Brooks Brothers, maybe $800. His briefcase was worn leather, the kind that looked better with age. He didn't try to outdress or out-intimidate Patricia. He just laid out 3 binders on the table, each one neatly labeled corporate records, property deeds, investment accounts. Patricia opened with her demands, reading from a legal document in a tone that brooked no disagreement. My client is entitled to half of all marital assets acquired during the 11-year marriage. This includes 20% of Chen and Associates, valued at approximately $11.2 million based on the company's annual revenue of $28 million. My client is therefore entitled to $2.24 million for her share of the company alone. Benjamin didn't even look up from his notes. Chen and Associates was founded 8 years ago using Mr. Chen's personal capital, technical expertise, and industry connections. Mrs. Chen had no involvement in its founding, operation, or growth. She contributed no capital, no labor, and no intellectual property. Under New York law, business assets created through one spouse's separate efforts are not automatically marital property. Patricia smiled thinly. The company was founded during the marriage. That makes it marital property subject to equitable distribution. Mr. Chen contributed his own premarital human capital to create the company, Benjamin countered. His education, his skills, his professional relationships, all developed before the marriage. The company is simply the manifestation of those premarital assets. Patricia moved to her next demand. The rental properties, 3 brownstone apartments in Park Slope, valued at $1.2 million, $1.4 million, and $1.2 million respectively. Total value $3.8 million. My client is entitled to half, $1.9 million. Those properties were purchased with corporate distributions from Chen and Associates, Benjamin said, not with marital funds. Mr. Chen earned income from his company, paid taxes on it, and used the after-tax proceeds to purchase investment real estate. Mrs. Chen's salary went into their joint account for living expenses. She never contributed to these property purchases. During a marriage, all income is marital income, Patricia argued. Mrs. Chen supported the household with her salary, allowing Mr. Chen to invest his income in real estate. That's a contribution. Benjamin opened the first binder. This is a record of all deposits to the Chen family joint checking account for the past 11 years. Mrs. Chen deposited her salary. Mr. Chen deposited his salary of $142,000 annually. The rental property purchases were made from a separate business account that Mrs. Chen never accessed, never knew about, and never contributed to. He slid a document across the table. Patricia reviewed it, her expression souring. Furthermore, Benjamin continued, Mrs. Chen's salary was consistently higher than the salary Mr. Chen drew from his company. For the past 5 years, she earned between $150,000 and $178,000, while Mr. Chen drew only $142,000. If we're calculating contributions to the household, Mrs. Chen actually contributed more to day-to-day living expenses than Mr. Chen did from his visible income. Patricia's jaw tightened. She flipped to another page in her legal brief. My client sacrificed her own career advancement to support Mr. Chen's business ventures. She took on additional household responsibilities, managed their social calendar, allowed Mr. Chen the time and freedom to build his company. Catherine nodded earnestly beside her attorney, playing the role of supportive wife. Benjamin actually laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. Mrs. Chen worked full-time throughout the marriage. She had no children to care for. She and Mr. Chen split household chores relatively equally. She didn't sacrifice anything. In fact, she aggressively pursued her own career advancement, including extensive international travel for work that took her away from home for weeks at a time. He opened the second binder. This is a record of Mrs. Chen's work travel over the past 5 years. She was out of the country for an average of 67 days per year. Milan, Paris, Tokyo, London. She attended fashion weeks, industry conferences, luxury brand launches, all on her company's expense account. This is not the profile of a woman who sacrificed her career for her husband's benefit. Patricia was looking less confident now. She conferred with Catherine in whispered conversation, then tried a different angle. My client is entitled to substantial alimony based on the lifestyle established during the marriage and the discrepancy in actual earning capacity. Mr. Chen earns approximately $890,000 per year. My client earns $178,000. That's a gap of $712,000 annually. My client should receive alimony of $15,000 per month for 10 years to bridge this gap and allow her to maintain the standard of living she became accustomed to during the marriage. Benjamin shook his head. Mrs. Chen's salary of $178,000 places her in the top 5% of earners in America. She's a marketing director at a luxury brand with a proven track record and significant industry connections. She has no children to support. She's in excellent health. There is absolutely no justification for alimony, especially given that she was unaware of Mr. Chen's actual income throughout the marriage, and therefore could not have become accustomed to a lifestyle funded by it. She lived in a household supported by that income, Patricia argued. No, she didn't, Benjamin said flatly. She lived in a household supported by her $178,000 salary and Mr. Chen's $142,000 salary. They split a $4,800 monthly rent payment. They took modest vacations. They ate at mid-range restaurants. The lifestyle Mrs. Chen became accustomed to was one funded by a combined household income of $320,000, not by Mr. Chen's actual earnings. Patricia tried one more angle. My client deserves compensation for emotional distress caused by Mr. Chen's deception about his income. He deliberately misled her about his financial situation for years. This constitutes fraud and bad faith dealing within the marriage. Benjamin opened the third binder. This one was different. It contained a USB drive. This, Benjamin said, is security camera footage from Maria restaurant dated October 23rd of last year. It shows Mrs. Chen verbally abusing Mr. Chen in a crowded restaurant, calling him pathetic, mocking his supposed lack of income, and ultimately slapping him across the face in front of approximately 60 witnesses. He plugged the USB drive into a laptop and turned the screen toward Patricia and Catherine. Hit play. The footage showed exactly what Benjamin described. Catherine's escalating volume, her drunken gestures, her hand connecting with Marcus's face. The timestamp was clear, the audio was clear, the assault was undeniable. Mrs. Chen committed assault in a public place, Benjamin continued. She humiliated Mr. Chen specifically because she believed he earned less money than her. She expressed contempt for his income level and his career, his worth as a human being. And she did all of this before knowing about his actual wealth. If we're discussing bad faith dealing and emotional distress, I think it's clear who the victim is in this marriage. Catherine had gone pale. She'd seen the security footage before. Benjamin had sent it to Patricia weeks ago as a warning shot, but seeing it again in the conference room on the big screen made it impossible to deny or minimize. Patricia clicked off the laptop, closed her legal brief, conferred with Catherine for 5 minutes in whispers. When she spoke again, her tone was different, less aggressive, more conciliatory. My client is willing to settle for a reasonable sum that reflects her contributions to the marriage without dragging this through an extended court battle. Benjamin nodded. Mr. Chen is willing to pay Mrs. Chen $340,000. This represents the total amount she contributed to their joint household expenses over 11 years, calculated from her salary minus what she spent on personal luxury purchases. No stake in the company, no claim to the rental properties, no alimony. Clean break. Patricia and Catherine conferred again. Catherine looked like she wanted to argue, to fight, to demand more, but Patricia was shaking her head, probably explaining that the security footage made any sympathy play impossible, that a judge would see Catherine as the aggressor, that $340,000 was actually generous given the circumstances. "We accept," Patricia said finally. The papers were signed 3 weeks later. Marcus wrote a check for $340,000, a significant amount of money for most people, but barely 4% of his net worth. Catherine signed the divorce decree, officially ending their 11-year marriage.
Marcus heard through mutual acquaintances that Catherine had cried when she signed the papers, had told her attorney that she'd made a terrible mistake, that she'd destroyed her marriage over pride and stupidity. Patricia had apparently told her that regret doesn't change legal outcomes and that she was lucky to get anything given the assault footage. A year after the slap at Maria, Marcus was still living in his Park Slope brownstone apartment. He'd converted one bedroom into a home office, another into a gym. The place was quiet, peaceful. He'd started dating someone, Emily, a professor of Asian American Studies at NYU, who made $78,000 a year and thought it was hilarious that Marcus had hidden his wealth for so long. "You're like an undercover millionaire," she'd said when he told her the story. "I just wanted to be valued for myself," Marcus said. "You are," Emily assured him. "Your money is impressive, but I'd date you if you really were making $142,000. You're kind and smart and you don't treat people like they're beneath you." Emily had met Marcus's parents. His mother had cried happy tears, saying Emily reminded her of herself when she was young, educated, principled, not concerned with status. His father had approved quietly, just a nod and a pat on Marcus's shoulder, but that meant everything. Catherine had remarried within 6 months of their divorce finalizing. She'd married Alessandro, the VP of international marketing she'd mentioned at the restaurant. Alessandro was wealthy, came from old money in Milan, had a trust fund worth several million euros. Catherine posted photos on Instagram of their honeymoon in the Maldives, the $2,000 a night resort bungalows, the designer clothes, the champagne. Marcus had blocked her accounts, but Emily showed him out of curiosity. Marcus looked at the photos and felt nothing. Catherine looked happy. Maybe she was. Maybe Alessandro's money made her happier than Marcus's hidden wealth ever could have. 2 years after the Maria incident, Marcus was having dinner at the same restaurant. He'd brought Emily for her birthday. They were seated in the main dining room. Marcus had requested it specifically, not the private room. He wanted to be in the same spot where everything had ended with Catherine. Antonio was their waiter. He recognized Marcus immediately. "Mr. Chen," Antonio said, genuine warmth in his voice. "It's good to see you again." "Good to see you too, Antonio," Marcus said. "This is my girlfriend, Emily. It's her birthday." Antonio treated Emily like royalty. Recommended the perfect wine pairing, brought out a special dessert with a candle, had the manager stop by to wish her well. As they were leaving, Antonio pulled Marcus aside. "Sir, I wanted to tell you, that night 2 years ago, the staff talks about it sometimes, how you stayed calm, how you handled everything with dignity. It made an impression." "Thank you," Marcus said. "A lot of wealthy customers come through here," Antonio continued. "But most of them need everyone to know they're wealthy. You didn't need that. You just needed to be treated with respect. That says something about your character." Marcus thought about that on the subway ride home. He still took the subway, even though he could easily afford car service. Emily was dozing against his shoulder, tired from the birthday celebration. The slap at Maria had been humiliating. Catherine's public degradation of him had stung in ways he still felt sometimes. But it had also been clarifying. It had shown him exactly who Catherine was, someone who measured worth in dollars and status symbols. Someone who could love him when she thought they were equals, but couldn't respect him when she thought herself superior. And it had freed Marcus to find someone who saw him clearly. Emily knew everything: the company, the properties, the investments, the hidden wealth, the test he'd subjected Catherine to. She'd said it was manipulative but understandable. Said she probably would have been honest from the start. But she got why Marcus hadn't been. Money changes how people see you, Emily had said. You wanted to be seen for yourself. That's not wrong. The waiter at Maria, Antonio, had been right. Marcus had handled that moment with dignity. He'd let Catherine expose herself, let her cruelty be witnessed. And when the truth came out, when the manager revealed Marcus's real status, Catherine's humiliation had been self-inflicted. The table upstairs had been waiting the whole time. Marcus just hadn't needed it. Hadn't needed to prove anything. Had been content to sit in the main dining room and let Catherine's assumptions run their course. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's letting people reveal who they really are, then walking away with your dignity intact. Marcus had done exactly that. And now, 2 years later, he was finally, genuinely happy. If you enjoyed this story, like this video, and leave a comment telling me what you thought.
And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.